I'm Alex Morash, and let's queer up the USA view. Stonewall pride flag dispute reaches federal courts. 2 federal lawsuits are turning a single flagpole at the Stonewall National Monument into a national flashpoint over how America tells its story. Earlier this month, the National Park Service removed the pride flag that had flown at the Stonewall since 2022, igniting protests and swift legal action. Now, Lambda Legal and a coalition of advocacy groups are asking a Manhattan federal judge to order the flag's return. Stonewall, established in 2016, commemorates the 1969 uprising, widely seen as a catalyst for the modern LGBTQ rights movement. Plaintiffs argue the pride flag is not decorative, but interpretive, a symbol inseparable from the monument's meaning. The New York case, brought by the Gilbert Baker Foundation, Village Preservation, Equality New York, and others, claims the Park Service acted unlawfully and arbitrarily. The complaint says the agency misread its own policies and failed to follow procedures required under the National Historic Preservation Act and the Administrative Procedure Act. A second lawsuit filed in Massachusetts broadens the fight. A coalition including the National Parks Coalition Conservation Association and the Union of Concerned Scientists challenges what it describes as a wider campaign to alter or remove exhibits addressing civil rights, climate change, slavery, and Indigenous history following a 2025 executive order. Meanwhile, New York lawmakers are planning legislation to make the rainbow flag permanent at Stonewall. Well, I just gotta say, seeing all the legalese about how they want to defend this flag. Normally I'd say lawyers don't do anything, but that actually sounded very clever to me. Like, oh, I'm using some laws and something useful. That being said, the other more serious part of the story is, like, of course, the pride should be flown there. Duh. At the same time, like, getting that flag back there isn't going to save a single trans person kidnapped and never seen again in an ICE detention facility, and isn't going to save a single queer person like Renee Good, who was murdered by a federal official. So to me, it's like, yes, of course this is bad. At the same time, like, is this what these queer rights groups and advocacy groups should be spending their time and money on? And I just don't know anymore.
I think it's a balance, because we've talked about this before. We see a kind of neutralization of our history in general. I mean, eventually we're just going to be saying, hey, we had a person come over to the land and say, hey, can I move in next door? Like, it's going to become this, like, howdy-doody, of how we, colonized. And, like, I've said it before, Texas history books have already been, like, pillaged, and they went from 2 inches thick to a pamphlet. And, so this is just another thing. We just saw in Philadelphia the removal of slavery and stuff that talks about our history. And what I don't get is that this is history, right? Now, I will say, I have a friend who lives in Germany, and it is very forbidden for them to talk about Hitler, Nazism, any of that within that area. And you don't see anything when you go through Berlin. Like, the Berlin Wall's gone, except for a couple of pieces. And, they're very respectful about talking about what was there, not what was done to it, which I found kind of odd, because I'm very much a person of, this happened, somebody killed somebody pillaged something, somebody took over something. We should talk about that and say, this is what happened, this is the outcome of it. And so taking down the flag is just, for me, I do agree with you. Yes, we have a lot of other, but this is just one more checkbox of that.
The Nazi comparison, I think, is a good one, because one, like, they changed a lot of stuff at once, but also, like, how did Germany get to the point where it is today, which does not have the sort of Nazi movement that it once had?
Correct.
America and the other allied countries, when they defeated Germany, there was a whole long program of showing the German people their own crimes. And it was not a very polite, you were seen to show, they showed Auschwitz, they showed the giant pits of mass graves and said, you did this.
Right.
And my big fear is there is no nation powerful enough on earth to force America to deal with that as we start going down this road. That's what really terrifies me.
Well, yeah. And having come out, in New York City area and going to the Village as, it's a monument. It's part of the history. It's a beautiful place. Like, it's a beautiful park, right? And like you said, Rex, make things more neutral by taking away monuments to acknowledge slavery existed. It's not that we're celebrating it. We're acknowledging the history.
And I think there's a fine line because, they've had this situation where they were taking down statues to Confederate soldiers and renaming things from Confederate soldiers. And people are like, well, that's our history. Why are you getting rid of it? But these are the same people who are taking away
remember,
the flag.
All those Confederate, those monuments were made in like the 1950s by some white supremacists as like a PR stunt. Not the same thing as one commemorating like an actual place like Stonewall where a specific event happened, or like being related to the time. Like the people that lost the Civil War didn't like talking about it at first for the first 10 or 20 years. They were losers. They didn't want to be reminded that they were losers.
Right. Yeah. But you should, you should still go, when you go through like Gettysburg and all that, you need to see that, this is where Civil War happened. Mm-hmm. This is who won. This is who lost. We might like it or not. I'm not saying, put up a Confederate, Confederate soldier won here, so let's put up a monument to them. Let's fly the Confederate flag to show that this was their chess piece. But we need to show that this is what happened here, and it's about education. I do find that sometimes monuments, when they are put up, they are a little one-sided at times, and they don't depict both sides. And we also don't, unfortunately, most people don't look at things in context of time. So, for instance, I was just reading watching some documentaries on the whole America's Next Top Model, and
very related.
Well, the reason why I bring that up is because some things happened in a time period that was acceptable at that time.
Yeah.
So, I think again the flag represents a moment in time, and we've seen the flag change, but they're flying not even the original flag, but they're flying the regular, what I would consider the historical pride flag, not the current equality pride flag. So again, we're looking at the stuff in context, and taking down the flag just makes that now, and they've even removed the plaque, so now it's just a park.
Yeah, but remember, I understand all the context with the different flags and the subtext. Trump's administration isn't doing it for they just want to erase, wipe, and also get the distraction of it.
Correct. Well, like I said, they're wanting to erase history in general.
And they want us focused on that and not what they're doing. That's my big fear of this sort of conversation. It's like, yes, this is horrific. It's also designed to be more distraction than not.
Which is kind of what we keep saying every time we report on something. Yes, this is bad, guys. However, remember, there's something even worse happening.
It's going to be interesting seeing how the 250th birthday is celebrated this year, and how the different parties, especially our current administration, celebrates it, and what they choose to promote as part of history, and what they whitewash or erase in that celebration.
I thought we were just going to celebrate Trump for this. That's where it seems to be going.
I mean, that's if it even happens. I mean, honestly, it's going to get to a point where, unfortunately, he blusters and says, this is what I want. And then when it comes down to it, either the money isn't there or the infrastructure isn't there. You can't have tanks going down the streets of Washington, D.C. If anybody's ever driven through Washington, D.C., it barely holds a Mazda, let alone a tank. So it's just, unfortunately, we need to, speak up and watch these. So there is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by sharing them and subscribing to Queer News Tonight.